As far as
And so now all of a sudden, it's like, yeah.
because she took over after filling
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Sharon, but Sharon,
So I gotta go now.
before that was Claudia. Good possible to get hold of him, he said. I have my folder of the one where they write stuff, with some Nicholas, I remember the first one I went to.
No, we would have to pay before. So we're not allowed to raise any of our funding to the Crime Center. But you could.
Sure, we can give you nothing for it.
Oh, yeah.
You fill with our newspapers.
I'm saying that without looking at any of them. Yeah. And she'll probably have you go see Nursing. So you might as well just fill up the thing, see Nursing.
Business funds and set up all the pictures and all that stuff.
Oh, they're here, hey. You made my dog bark.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we're ready to go. Anybody goes to anything else, they look for one.
Hey everyone, welcome. Please come on in, find your seats, and we will get started this evening. My name is Andy Fellon. I'm a reporter and anchor for News 5, and was honored to be asked to be the moderator for this candidate forum. Before we get going, I want to just kind of briefly go over the rules that we've all agreed to for tonight's event. Essentially, this is a candidate forum format. It's not a debate where you're going after each other. It's more question and answer style. We will ask a question and then we'll kind of move through with each of the candidates providing an answer. The candidates will have 2 minutes to provide an answer. We do have an official timekeeper here who will try and keep you on time. And if you start to go over too much, I'm going to have to be the bad guy and jump in and cut you off. So I apologize for that, but that's what we are trying to do to make sure that everybody has a chance to give an appropriate reply. Terry and I did discuss some questions that we're going to be asking you beforehand, but the candidates are unaware of what those questions are. So they're going to have to be answering on the cuff. After that, if we get through what we have prepared for some questions, and we still have a little bit of time, we will try and take some audience questions as well toward the end. However, those will be shorter one-minute answers for those. And then I believe we will have a closing statement to wrap up. Okay, 2 minutes for those as well. 1 minute, 1 minute closing. Okay. So those are the rules, and with that, I think what we will do is we will kind of move through with moving left to right, or left to right, this would be stage right to left, to the audience here, with the candidates, each answering in that order, and then I will call on the next one down first with each question subsequently. So with that, let's go ahead and begin, and we will have our opening statements with Mr. Jim Romanello.
Well, hi, I'm Jim Romanello. I'm glad to be here. I want to continue to serve on the board. Bring a spirit of unity, continue to build up staff and complete our staff, and solve our issues when it comes to getting our wells, tanks, water, and everything else handled. But good to be here. Thank you.
Jim?
Hi, my name is my name is Jamie Henry. This is the first time thing for me. I'm just looking forward to collaborating with the board. My interest is solely in coming in and making the community better than I found it essentially. So that's why I'm looking.
Hi everybody. I'm running on a platform of adequate, safe water, community safety, and budget accountability and transparency. I'm a former New Hampshire state rep, a town budget committee vice chair, and have over 30 years experience in the professional world in cost accounting, auditing, and as part of an executive leadership team with respect to risk and opportunity management. I think that we have a lot of issues that we've solved, we've made some progress on, one of which is water, some of it is the budget and transparency, but we've got a long way to go. I've been attending the meetings for the last 2 years. I know what's going on, I can hit the ground running. I love my community and I want to serve, so I hope you will enjoy tonight, learn a little bit about me, and vote for me in April. Thank you.
I'm Allison Thompson. I lived in Monument for 12 years. I have been a stay-at-home parent for 25 years. I have 4 children. My degree is in vocal pedagogy. In other words, I was classically trained in operatic singing, but I chose to stay home with my kids, and I think that provides some unique experience from me because I have negotiated with some of the most unreasonable creatures. So, I think that's a good place for me to be, and I hope that I can tell you more about myself and where the Legacy Monument go tonight.
Hi, I'm Mitch LeKine. Thanks for coming out and enjoying this evening. It's not snowing out, like I think there was bad weather at the last one. Moved here in 2018 with my partner Carol. We've since added to our family. We have almost a year-old chow. We live over on the east side of 25 in the Village Center. Since moving here, I've tried to get as engaged with the community as I can. Started off as soon as I was eligible on the Board of Adjustments, moved on to the Planning Commission, and that's where I am today as one of the Planning Commissioners very recently. And it was during that time that I started to look into filling one of the 3 seats that are available as a trustee. So I hope that come April 7th, you will have known more about me and cast your vote for me.
Thanks so much. And since we had Jim give the opening remarks, then we will move to Jamie to begin the first question. So Jamie, let's begin. I was happy to hear so many of you talk about water because that's actually what I wrote my first question about. Let's begin with an issue that you'll likely have to deal with right away. There were some elevated levels of radium that were found in one of the city wells recently in some state tests. And then last month, a vote to install a filtration system in that well, it failed on a split vote 3-3. And so during the discussion, it came up, well, do we want to be investing the people's money into maintaining this existing infrastructure? Would it be better use of the money to spend on updating the water infrastructure? So Jamie, I guess if you were sitting on the Board of Trustees today, how would you address the problem of the polluted water?
Yeah, that's actually something I'm still researching, looking into, but I did attend the water workshop, so that was very informative. I appreciate that.
Okay.
I'm familiar with the different aquifers and levels. Again, as I'm researching still the problem to updating it, if that's a permanent fix, that's something, I mean, obviously working with the specialists and going into that, I think that's the proper move to make. I think there's just been a bandage over the issue of what they say since 2016. But yeah, definitely looking into it. I would very much want to see the resolution and hope that our waterworks can fix it as is.
Stayed under on time. So Ann, how would you address this problem if you were on the Board of Trustees?
I've been following this closely, even though I'm on the Tri-C side. There's solutions that have been in the works for a couple of years. And that's a regional water solution that Tri-View is heading up that will use surface water, which does not have the radium issue. And it can be mixed or blended with the wells that might have radium issues to do what they were doing now to dilute it. Right now, the EPA and Colorado Department of Health came down, spent about 2 hours at the last trustee meeting discussing how the water is currently safe. It's safe to drink. The water department has been monitoring it. They have noticed that the levels are rising, and that's why they wanted to address it. I think for a permanent solution, we can't just keep drilling wells. One, because we will, repeating the same behavior and expecting a different outcome is the definition of madness. So we have to start looking into other solutions. This is a long-term solution, 100-year guaranteed water supply, and it's a regional solution. If we just keep sticking the same straws in the same aquifers, we're also going to run out. So those are 2 issues that we need to address. The Northern Delivery System, as it's being called, will take care of that. It is a longer-term solution. We may have to look for some short-term solutions if those wells still have a rising rate of radium, but I think we need to start spending money on the long-term solution that will feed the entire regional area, Palmer Lake, Black Forest, Woodmore, the surrounding areas, with a good, clean water supply.
Alice?
I think what I'm seeing in the city is we've had a lot of growth, and our current system, we just keep digging wells. So our current system, I'm not sure can keep up with the way that we're growing. I think we need some long-term solutions that can affect that. I would like to see any conversation about renewable energy sources, surface water. It's got to change. We can't be just stuck in the ground with it. So, you know, but I think what concerns me more is we need to invest in a reliable infrastructure with an emergency plan, because right now we don't have one. So if the water goes bad, it's gone. If we get into any of that, it's not going to be here. And we take water for granted, right? We turn it on, we use it, and we don't think there's just so much that has to go into water. So as we reach these solutions, I have to be cautious about how I'm spending your money. It's your tax money. I want to find the best solution for us. It might not, reverse osmosis is so expensive. We're talking $15 million. So I want to find a practical, pragmatic solution that the water can work for everybody. That's what we want. We're a town. We want what's best for our town. You're my neighbors. I want good water. You want good water. I get it. And I think it's time to stop just currently going over the system that we have and figure out what to do in an emergency.
Okay. Mitch, your turn.
Well, I am not an expert in water. I didn't stay in a Holiday Inn last night, so I'm an IT guy. So I went and started doing research before the question of the radium issue came up. I went to Jim Grady at TriView. I went to Tom, our Public Works Director, and I sat down and looked at all the plans and got a education that was pretty overwhelming about water. I think what we need to start doing is taking the advice of the experts. They've presented to the board before what their plans were. They asked for the money that was pre-approved, and they were denied that. I think that if we go along the lines of regular improvements to the existing water infrastructure, along with making these long-term plans for the connections between wastewater down to CSU and creating loops back up for fresh water, according to Tom, molecule for molecule, have been able to help eradicate the radium. Obviously, we've got to deal with the pumps, the wells that are currently extracting higher content radium today, and there's a plan for that. We just need to fund it, and we can move forward with that.
Well, Jim, you're in a unique position because you're one of
I got to hear everybody, is that it?
of the panel, and you also got to hear their answers, but tell us your thoughts on, what should be done here.
Well, I know I've been dealing with staff on this for a minute, and we do have plans right now and already approval for a design treatment plant at Synthes and Mitchell. We also have regional solutions that are coming through northern entities, but that's not going to happen overnight. I really was shocked that what came up last meeting didn't pass, especially with the public outcry at that last meeting. If that came up again, I would vote for it in a minute, period. I think that a lot of it was, or part of it may have even been obstructionist, which is part of what I ran against the first time, is that we would end that we would bring a conciliatory and reaching across the aisle attitude toward what's best for the public and public safety. And that's what I stand for.
No, thanks so much. So Ann, you're going to answer first in the next one, and then we'll continue moving right to left, and then until we get back around. But this question has to do with something similar, talking about growth. The past fall, the board approved first phase of a new 300-unit housing development. So, Ann, I want you to picture yourself on the board. How could you describe for us how you would evaluate applications for either new housing developments or retail developments that will be presented to the Board of Trustees?
Let's see. To me, the property owners have the right to develop that property if it's zoned for a specific use. So I'm not anti-growth. I do understand people wanting to keep the small town look and feel, the hometown feel of Monument, and I value that as well. I think related to water and related to a few other things that are on my platform, once we get those figured out, once we stop putting Band-Aid fixes on a system that's, some of it's 50 or so years old, we can have the money, we will have the money to make sure that our infrastructure is sound, that we can support our police department, which is another part of our platform, so it's a safe place to live and have a business, and that will attract people to the town of Monument. It's one of the few places that's left to grow. There's a lot of things, you know, coming from the north and coming from the south. What I'd like to see is that we make sure that we maintain the quality of life that we have here and have some of that money that we're not putting on Band-Aid fixes on parks, recreation, quality of life in Monument. Again, that will make it an attractive place for people to come and start businesses who will want to live here. And I think it's doable, but it's a balance. And I would approach it in a very balanced way. There's been a lot of developer influence in the past on the board. I think that's unfair to the residents. The residents live here. The builders build and then they leave. So it has to be a balanced approach. And I think it has to be a bit in the favor of the people who will be here for 30, 40 years. So that's how I would approach it.
And thanks so much. Allison?
Housing, boy, it's a complicated question, isn't it? Those 300 homes are going in right behind me, so my open space is gone. But that being said, we want to see growth here. I would want to see growth here. I think one of the things that people have mentioned to me is, I want to be able to live and work in Monument. They don't want to have, I can't say it's a bedroom town, it might be a sleepy town. More people leave Monument to work than stay here. And people want to stay here, they want to work, and then you have to have room for those people to come in and live. So, again, yeah, well, I agree with Ann, it's a balance now. We only have so much property, right? So how can we zone that and how can we make the best of it without taking a hometown feel away? People, I love living here. I love the small town feel that we have. I love the downtown. It's just cute. I don't know what else to say. So I think housing is an important issue that we have to consider along with the businesses and the people that want to live here, the residents that want to live here.
Can you repeat the question?
Of course. So picture yourself on the board of trustees, and you have an application for a new housing or retail development that you've got to vote on. Walk us through your process. How are you going to make a decision about whether to say yes or no to something like that?
Well, because we've got a couple of those issues right now that are going to be coming to the planning commission. First one is around zoning. So I'm not going to get in the way of private landowners and what they want to do with their land. So if they want to sell their land to put residential houses on it, it would need to be rezoned. I have no reason to not approve that kind of request. At that point, as I've looked through a lot of the planning commission notes, some of these projects take the better part of a decade for them to come to fruition. So they get their zoning approved for whatever they want, and then they put their plans forth, and the people who are the developers are going to come to the planning commission. I would have to take each one as a case-by-case basis. But I mean, Kentucky Fried Chicken's been on the map for 10 years now here, and there's no Kentucky Fried Chicken. So these things are not overnight pop-up communities. I know that people want slow growth. I think 10 years is pretty slow to put a restaurant in place. So, case-by-case basis for each one of them.
There is a place. Well, Jim, again, you're in a unique position. You're serving on the board, but walk us through, how do you make decisions when it comes to land use and specifically growth and development, when you see these applications coming your way?
But there's no Chipotle.
There's no
Chipotle. Maybe Panda Express or Chick-fil-A. I get emails like this all the time. I get emails from both sides. It's like, hey, we want to preserve the field. We want this. And if we're going to spend money, better spend money here, I think, right? And get the funds and revenues here. But you got to look at that on a case-by-case basis, and we do get emails from both sides. The biggest part of this, and one of the reasons why I'm on the board, is from being president of the Village Center Metro District, where we had a zoning change on the 105 right there that developed VCMD filings 3 and 4. We had a board in 2014 change that zoning without looking back at the original service plan from 2004. What they did was they cut the finances off where we couldn't even make a bond payment, let alone turn a street light on, cut grass, or pay water. And through negotiating with our attorney, the town's attorney, the town manager, and the board, that's what gave me the experience to get this seat in the first place. And I would bring that education and experience in to make sure that we did this right and smart and financially sound. And that's what's most important.
Jamie?
Yeah, I think there's been great points to make about this, but the biggest thing again is, I'm pro-growth, but again, looking at it from a sustainable point of view, to where one of my platform points is the infrastructure, fixing the infrastructure, making sure we can sustain it, and it's just not kind of like they pointed out, like if it takes 10 years, making sure we're doing it adequately. And I mean, I too appreciate the small town feel of mine, that's kind of why I love it. But again, if we're not growing, I actually drive to Denver to, my commute to work is to Denver, so I would love for that work option to be around this area, for money to bring in that revenue. So I think that's definitely something I would love to advocate for, but also with that being said, you also bring in a better budget, so the budget would allow for better infrastructure, just to look at these plans and make sure we're doing it in a safe and practical way. So, yeah, that's perfect.
All right. Well, Allison, I think you're going to be the next one to answer this question. I did hear a couple of answers in the previous question along these lines, but let's talk about that infrastructure a little bit. Growth does put some extra demand on the town's resources, specifically things like our roads and the police and fire services. So, Allison, what are your ideas to help make sure that the town of Monument is able to continue to provide the same quality of service, even as there's more demand on a limited budget?
Right, because there's only so many of us that pay into the tax fund, right? So we only have so much money, and so I want our police force to be adequately staffed. That's a wonderful service that's provided to us. We're blessed to have that. And infrastructure, can you say that again? Because I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Growth puts demand on town resources like roads, the police and fire services. So what ideas do you have to help the town continue providing those services when the population is expanding?
Okay, so the second half is that, I'm still looking into stuff like this and forming opinions. So I can't always answer everything. So as far as infrastructure goes, in keeping the roads, and, we have to make sure we have good schools too, but that's a different committee. So, so how would I implement that? That I have a lot to learn about. And that's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Well, Mitch, what ideas do you have to make sure that the town is still able to keep the same level of service with the growing population?
Well, I for one am going to go to the experts that are in the town. So the Public Works Department has a bang-up crew, and I've had the opportunity to sit down for at least 2 sessions with Tom Tharnish to get his ideas, because I don't have specific ideas on, but I do know that there's plans in place, and I think one of the roles of being a trustee is to take the experts' information, gauge whether it's valid, research it, find out if there's truth to it, talk to the other trustees, and they're supposed to be the experts. So I have to give them credit for being the town employees and in those positions, because otherwise, why are they there? And I think from conversing with them, ideas will come out, so I have the opportunity to hear their ideas, maybe follow up with them on some of them, and come up with some new ones. So.
Well, Jim, the question comes to you then. What ideas do you have?
Well, as you grow, it's going to be, this goes back to the last question, it's going to be a balance between residential and commercial. Commercial is far more revenues to the town than commercial. And you don't want it extreme either way, but if we're going to grow, you have to have those revenues if you want to add services. On the same side of that, too, I've been here for 12 years, and I've never felt threatened in any way. I think it's one of the safest places I've ever lived. Granted, we could use some more staff, but it's kind of Mayberry, almost in a way. I love it here. I mean, it's beautiful, and yeah, I want to sustain whatever protection we need. But this is one of the most beautiful, safest places I've lived in my life.
Again, that'd be something I would want to collaborate with the board on. It's something to be researched, and obviously I feel like there's different people that have expertise that I would pull on for that. But yeah, safety. I think the biggest thing, like you said, keeping monuments safe. I would just want to make sure that we're having competitive wages across the board for our police department. That way we can ensure they're not, competition in Denver or Colorado Springs, just making sure that this community does stay safe as it grows.
Yeah.
So about 60% of the town's revenue is sales tax. So a good mix of making sure that we have thriving business that attract people to spend money, benefits the residents. To maintain the quality of service, we're growing like crazy, but the police department has not kept pace. The funding for the police department has not kept pace. I've talked to Sean, Chief Hemingway, and discussed how we can grow the police force, because a safe place to live, I'm sure, is priority for the residents. Right now, it's an injustice to the officers, it's an injustice to the residents, not to make sure that we have adequate police security in the town. Crime is growing because the area is growing, and we need to keep up with that. Services will be kept in pace as long as we also grow our businesses and maintain that sales tax revenue. We have 2 special taxing districts, Village Center and Triview. So part of the burden is on them. They don't contribute to the police force as it is, but I think that might be something we might be able to negotiate. The infrastructure, again, I think once we get the water issue under control, it's been costing millions of dollars, quite literally. We will have it to spend on infrastructure. And the infrastructure has been neglected. Triview's been doing a pretty good job on the east side of the highway. I want to see some work being done on the west side of the highway, both with the water, the roads, and also Parks and Rec. We can't forget that part. Oh, and my time's up.
All right, Dan, thanks so much. Well, Mitch, you're going to begin this next round of questions. In your role as an elected official, you will, from time to time, interact with town employees and town leaders. I'd like for you to describe for everyone how you imagine yourself communicating with the town staff and resolving any potential conflicts that may come up that you get involved in.
Well, I've met with them since becoming a candidate. I've made a point to go in there, and the first thing I try to do is yell at all of them. Just walk in and crack the whip, right?
Remind me not to work for you.
No, I mean, I'm a big proponent of collaboration, right? So, being that they're the employees of the town, they should know best, right? And I'm there to support them. And so I want to get their ideas, I want to hear their voices. They're probably the ones that also hear from residents about various issues that come up. I think it would be, I would be remiss if I didn't take their word as what's going on in the town, right? So they tell me there's a problem, it needs to be resolved, and working with the board, I think that's what we do, is we all work together and collaborate on whatever is going on.
Jim, you're up next. So kind of describe how you work with town employees and how it is that you come across resolving conflicts.
Well, when I came on the board, we didn't have much of a staff. We didn't have a town manager, a town attorney, and our treasurer was on the way out. Now we have a staff, and I'm confident within the next 2 weeks we'll have a town attorney. I speak with the town manager on his cell phone multiple times a week. I'm in communication constantly, and we have an excellent staff with excellent morale now, and we are finally moving forward, and my agenda is to keep it that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, new police chief, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Jamie, your thoughts. How would you interact with the staff, resolve conflicts?
Well, I have previous college experience with athletics basketball team. I was team captain. That may have been a more heated situation, so I'd like to think I've matured from that. Yeah, that kind of conflict. But even in my work experience, we work with, the clients and, to be brutally honest, sometimes very confident people. And you have to just be able to show them and teach them that you have their best interest in mind without, I guess, being degrading about it. Not to say that, I don't want to make it sound like that's my view of this, the town people, but I think going in there and being able to collaborate, hear their point of views, and just be able to talk it out, that's kind of, I'm all about the collaboration, the teamwork. I think it's just a team effort. It's not just you saying your opinion and going in there bluntly pushing it. So yeah, from a teamwork perspective is where I would come from, and then collaborate with them.
Over the past couple of years, I've gotten to know quite a few of the staff. Had a long conversation with Chief Hemingway. I think we're on the same page. I've listened to some of the things that are going on in operations, and I think some of the ideas are good. I know they've done a vulnerability assessment of the water system. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. I think it's about 2 years old, to figure out some short-term solutions and some long-term solutions for the west side. I think the Northern Delivery will help with the long-term solutions and help relieve some of the stress on the water operators in town once that's online. And again, freeing up funding for roads and infrastructure. I did go on the tours when they offered them for the water department to learn the details on what was going wrong or what the concerns were from the employees. I went over to the operations center. I stood behind them when they said they did not have a working toilet for like 14 people, when we were talking about other silly things in the town. We have to support our staff. That's been fixed. But those types of things need to be addressed. And again, looking at the budget, figuring out where we can devote money to things that we really need and get those taken care of instead of putting them off and kicking it down the road are important to me. And once those staff are supported, they can support the town better. So,
Thank you. Allison, tell us how you would interact with town employees, and if there was a conflict, what would you do about it?
Sure. So resolving conflict, that's always something to talk about. Yes, I want to work with the town staff. Absolutely. They bring expertise, but what I want to know is what you think. You are number one here, as far as I'm concerned. You're entrusting me not with your vote, you're entrusting me with how I'm going to spend your tax dollars. I take that really, really seriously. And when you resolve conflict, listen, we are passionate people. You agree with that, right? We are passionate people. We want to persuade each other into seeing things the way we want to see it. We want to win the argument. I get it. But when it comes to resolving conflict, you're going to have cooler heads. It's going to happen. Things get heated, comments get made, people get frustrated. It's our human nature. It's how we do it. It's how my children did it when they demanded justice in a nanosecond. So being able to resolve conflict calmly, that I am not here to offend you. I'm not here to say you're not an expert. That's not what I want to do. I want to be able to hear from you too. And then I can make an informed decision when we get to those conflict positions.
Awesome, thank you. All right, well, so Jim, you're going to start our next question here. Let's use a little imagination. If you had a magic wand to change anything about the town of Monument that you wanted, just like that, what would you do and why?
Well, that's a little unrealistic, but it's fun. Again, I would just press on in the direction we're going. When I came on, what I heard from the public was they were tired of hearing a board bicker, and almost embarrassingly so. They were tired of the town working under a spirit of distrust, where if you have staff that is constantly working under fear or being accused of deceit when there is no evidence of it. You can't be creative and productive in that at all. I want to make sure that our board continues to work together and that our staff knows that we've got their back. It doesn't mean that you wave a hand at something that's not appropriate or right, but they know that they can be free to be creative and make us move forward, and that's what I want to continue. There's my magic wand.
Same question for you, Jamie. If you had a magic wand, what would you change and why?
Well, since we're assuming on the level of magic, it would also be the hot topic with the rating in the water, you know, if magically, then if we could fix that and everyone would be happy, I think that would be the way to go. Yeah, I'd go with that one.
That's the important mission for you. Gotcha. Okay. Ann, same question.
I think we have some practical solutions that don't need a magic wand, but one that the residents, at least that I hear, is they would love to have some businesses that they would love to frequent, like Chick-fil-A, Panera Bread, a few other businesses that they'd like to bring in. I know we have an economic development corporation or committee that's working on bringing certain businesses in. Also, you know, being able to live and work, I commute. So if I could drive 10 minutes down the street to my job, I would wave my magic wand, put a Chick-fil-A right next to my business, and we'd be, you know, we could all walk to work. So that would be my magic wand.
So right there. Allison.
My magic wand would, I think some of the things that I've heard, you know, when we are done with work at the day and we drive back home, there's not a good place to grab a bite. So we have things like that, but I'd like to see a little more of that come into the community. That brings jobs, especially for our teens. Some of our teens don't have transportation. They need a parent to take them to work. That's hard to do when you're driving down to Academy at 12 a.m., picking your kid up from, you know, where the place of employment. So if I could wave a magic wand, that's the one I would wave, so that, you know, yeah, you could grab a bite at the end of the day. Maybe if you have to, you know, get a new dress, you could go get a new dress somewhere if you wanted to. That's the wand I would wave. It's the way I know.
Okay. Mitch?
So if I had a magic wand, I guess I would take it back to 2004 when I first saw Monument. It was a little smaller. It was the reason why I decided I wanted to move to Monument 2 years ago, and it clearly did not look the same as I remembered it. But given that I wouldn't want to really do that. I would like to see us progress. I would like to see an entertainment district along Jackson Creek Parkway that would basically give the residents of Monument and the surrounding Tri-Lakes region a place to go that doesn't include having to go to Interquest or Northgate. So higher end restaurants, places to shop. She needs to get a dress, that'd be great. Right? I'd like to see some beautification to historic Monument. I'd like to see the area of 105 and all the places along 105 get a facelift. If I could wave a magic wand, it would look historic and rustic, not dilapidated with holes in the ground and things like that, and swallow cars up. So that's what I would do.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we've reached my final question that I had prepared ahead of time here. So this question is going to go to Jamie first. We're going to keep going through the same order that we have. But Jamie, why should the voters choose you in this election?
That's a great question. I would say because my goal is, again, like I said before, I want to come to this town and I want to leave it better than what I found it. And in doing that, the biggest part of that is like listening to the voters, you know, listening to what you guys have to say and advocating for yourself. My goal in doing this was to get involved in the community and really kind of, I'm either all in or nothing, so I really wanted to dive in and learn about the community. And this has been a great way for me to do it. And in doing that, I want to hear what people have to say and why, what they think or what they want, and I want to be able to advocate for that, along with the board, you know, like I said, the teamwork part of it. So that's why I would do that, or that's why I would seek your votes, because eventually it's all about you guys, and I would like to fulfill that for you, and I would hope that you would trust me with that. So that's my goal.
Thanks so much. And why should the voters choose you this April?
I've been involved with the board for the last couple of years as a resident. I've come to the board, I've listened to issues, but I've also spoken. I've spoken for the police force when they once again this year have been underfunded. I've spoken about the water. I've spoken for the community the best I can as a resident. I'd like the opportunity to be able to work for you to another level and help the community solve some of these issues. We have a solution for the water. I have budget solutions to be able to afford more police officers. I want to make sure that you guys have accountability and transparency into the activities of the board, which has been frustrating in the past, along with the budget. I think once we have those things, we can be honest with each other, you can see what's going on, and that way you can come and talk to us about things that concern you. I hope to see more of you there on a regular basis, and I hope you keep us accountable. In the past, there hasn't been enough transparency in my opinion, and I think we serve you. It shouldn't be hidden. You should be able to know what's going on and tell us whether you think what we're doing is right or wrong. So I hope you will give me an opportunity. I hope you will vote for me in April, and we will get some of these things done. They won't languish any further. Thank you.
So I think I'm a good candidate for this because I've come to a time in my life where I can serve. My 3 sons are grown, they've moved on, my daughter's still at home. I have time. It's hard for younger families to do that. This is a volunteer position. I don't intend spending a ton of money to be elected, but I want to ask for your vote with a humble attitude. I don't think I'm extra special or anything like that, but I do want to serve you, and I want the citizens of this town to know that they're first, at the very top, at the very, very top. That's where I want to keep you.
So I've served our country in the Navy, in the Army Guard, and I also served the Air Force as a civilian contractor. I enjoy serving others. It's why I wanted to get on the Board of Adjustments. It's why I wanted to get on the Planning Commission. It's why I want to be a trustee. I will bring to this position, because of who I am, it's my core, honesty and integrity, and I'm as transparent as they come. There is not one thing that I would not tell you the truth on at first question. Of course, unless the mayor tells me not to. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what I'm about. That's why I want to be on the board. To serve the community.
Jim, why should the voters pick you this not November, April?
November's done.
Too many elections.
Well, counting the Village Center Metro District, I've been involved in town politics for over 6 years. I helped develop the IGA with the Metro District in the town. Myself and the current trustees have gotten the town staffed. We finally got the car built. Let's get some traction and let's take off. Let's keep going the way we're going, and let's keep moving forward. And that's what I'm totally committed to do.
Okay. Jim, thanks so much. Well, those were my prepared questions. I'd like to open it up now to our audience. However, I do want to ask that we try to keep the topics of the questions to issues that are related to the town of Monument, as opposed to just individual, I got you.
No coronavirus questions.
Yeah, no coronavirus. We don't want that. Nobody here works.
Actually, that would be a really good question.
All right.
Do the town trustees have anything to do with any sort of town level planning for closures and, events like this? Somebody said, ooh, more than 25 people in a room. Is that anything in your purview to deal with this kind of a crisis?
Yeah, with
guide the
coronavirus
town?
being in the news, so I think we were going this way. We're back over to Ann now. It's going to be your turn to answer the question first. But what do you think the town should do if it comes to it with coronavirus?
Okay, well, the town does not have a health department, does not run the health department. That would be at a county level. The mayor, however, and he's sitting right in front of you, can declare or is in charge of if there is an emergency. They could be called upon to impose quarantines, close, meetings down. I did see that Governor Polis declared a state of emergency today in regards to the virus. So I will say what I was going to say at the end of my speech, go home and wash your hands, please. So again, I think if we approach this in a calm manner, take it as serious as you see fit, but also look out for your neighbor to the left and the neighbor to the right. Do the best you can. Don't spread it. I just found out some people at the company I work, but not the site I work, came down with this. The businesses are taking it seriously. Take it seriously, do your part, be a neighbor. If someone's sick, help them out. Try not to get sick yourself. Don't infect others. But the town of Monument does not really have a lot of control to answer your question.
Allison, your thoughts on the coronavirus?
Coronavirus?
Yeah, what do you think that the town should do in response to this, if anything?
I think what we're doing right now is all we can do. I think the biggest thing we have with this coronavirus is fear taking control of it. Right now, it seems like a cold, but it can, just like flu or other things, bronchitis, pneumonia, it does tend to, get to vulnerable parts of the population. Thank you, Anne. So elderly, immunosuppressed, things like that. So wash your hands. That's all we can do at this point until we hear from experts that might be doctors to give us other advice. I'm not going to panic, and I'm not going to be afraid of it.
Do you have enough toilet?
No, I got some on Amazon today, but just one pack. I got some to eat.
Mitch, your thoughts on what the town responds to the coronavirus outbreak?
Well, I don't know if there's any doctors that work for the town. I don't think there are, but I would think that the leadership of the town, including the elected officials, should be getting guidance from the Colorado Department of Health, as well as at the federal level. But by doctors, not by politicians who pretend to be doctors. I think there should be some form of announcement to ask local businesses to prevent hoarding of things that are required to keep people healthy. We want everybody to be healthy, not just one person who hides away in their closet with all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer that's available, because it's out everywhere. But yeah, I would not panic, and I would not expect that the town would do much, because they really can't, but except get guidance from above and communicate it to everybody.
Jim, what do you think the town should do?
Well, we did pass last year a resolution to align ourselves with El Paso County emergency procedures. We have a great relationship with the Sheriff's Department. I've just recently been to Florida and was actually in some of the areas that Chief Hemingway served. I was duly impressed by those areas. I think that this is definitely something that he and our response team can handle with El Paso County. And as long as we stay in that alignment, I think we'd be able to react very quickly to anything that came up.
Okay.
As a town, I would say, like I said, adhering to best practices. Granted, there's not much we as the town can do, but whatever's being recommended, implementing that, following it. I would also echo what Allison said about the fear tactic, just being prepared, making sure we are being mindful decisions and practicing safe methods. But yeah, it's not much.
We have another question from the audience. In the corner?
I just want to first make a comment. With our population and growth, and we have 5 people applying for this, I thank you. I think that's fantastic. My question is, tonight there's been discussion regarding commercial and growth, economic development, and residential. And the residential is going quicker. What are your views if we rezone the current commercial to residential? What would you do to generate revenue in order to fund the town, that we can be proactive moving forward on the objects that we need?
Allison, I think that we
Oh,
We're
man.
keeping the rotation.
Okay, can you say that one more time?
So my question is, with the zoning that we currently have right now, be it residential, commercial, if we transition commercial over to residential, we lose that opportunity for economic development. And I think as trustee Romanello shared, that's revenue generating to do the things we want to do to grow. So if we lose those dollars and we max out and we become a bedroom community, what would you do to generate revenue? How would you do that? Because costs will go up, there's infrastructure to do. That's not going to go away.
That is a really good question. So, and at this point, like I said, I would have to research that and learn about that. I don't know everything. How would I restructure? I understand what you're saying. So how would I restructure that? I need to find a solid answer, because we want that revenue so that we can fix things like water. So, right? So I'd have to look into that and see. I really want to hear from other people about that first before I make a decision.
So, let me see if I get your question right here. We're talking about, would you change zoning on parts of the town?
At the current time, if we have X amount of property that's zoned for commercial, which would be economic development businesses that we talk about,
Sure.
but if that transfers over and we rezone to residential,
Residential.
well, that percentage of revenue goes away. But the growth of the town continues, and as it goes, we want to build police, we want to do roads, we're going to need more dollars, that's an absolute. And this is a very difficult question for the board. So when we have commercial that's sitting there for 15 years, and you have a developer that wants to build, it's a very difficult decision.
Okay.
So what do you do?
So it sounds like you're saying, how do you find a good balance between residential and commercial? How would you do that as a trustee? Is that a fair way to phrase the question?
It is, because residential is limited on revenue generated.
Sure. Sure. Because it's just getting property tax, you're not going to pay sales
It's a very fair
tax.
question.
All right, so Mitch, I guess the question is, how would you balance this?
So, there's the economic development group within the town.
Mhm.
There's Terry and the chamber.
Mhm.
I would expect to work with both of them in order to help attract commercial businesses here as residentials go up. Because as they say, right, if you build it, they will come. So if there's enough resident rooftops, we should see businesses wanting to move here to take advantage of that. And I think it's up to the board, the town, and the chamber to get to those businesses with the developers and say, listen, we're putting properties up, they're being developed, there's more homes. It's now time for you to bring in these commercial businesses so that people can go shop at them. And that will generate the sales tax revenue we're looking for.
Okay. Good answer. Well, Jim, how do you strike that balance?
Well, I haven't been directly affected by that, and which is one of the reasons why I'm here. I think that I don't think we should jump to doing that quickly at all without our finance director and our economic development committee doing a financial report on how that would impact us. And then what you've got to do is say, well, what's left? I mean, if you're going to keep doing this, what's left of commercial? If you're just going to keep whittling it away, there's a point you just got to say no. Or, as Mitch said, if there's roofs, there should be businesses. And I would want our finance director and the economic development committee that we have to do an actual report before we make that decision or that vote.
So have someone study it.
Fiscal impact.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Jamie, your thoughts on this?
I definitely want to work with the town staff to, right off the top, I'm not going to say the expert on this. And so, obviously seeking expertise in this matter would be important. But just to reiterate, I think it's very important that you don't give out your commercial lots to residential. I think that's exactly right on, that you want to make sure you're bringing in commercial businesses for that revenue. But then also, like I said, I would still have to, along with the board, work together with the people who know most best of what's voting best, and then vote on that.
All right. Ann, how would you approach this?
So I agree with, I'm lucky I'm at the tail end of this question. So I can agree with a lot of what's already been said. We do need a balance, but 60% of our town revenue is from sales tax. So, but it's also a self-perpetuating animal. The more houses that go in, it creates demand. Demand creates opportunity for business. and businesses want to be in a place where they can thrive and do well. I would look at some of the roadblocks that we might have with people being able to start a business in town, our regulations, our ordinances, to make sure that we smooth the pathway for any businesses that want to come in. I know you all want more car part stores here, so. Now, actually, you know, and we need to balance that. We need to have an understanding of what the town expects, what they want. I think it's been very evident that I think we have our fill of car parts, auto parts stores. We'd like to have places, again, people have contacted me. You know, I get home from work, I drive in from Denver or wherever they work. I've been in my car for half an hour already. I don't want to have to drive to Colorado Springs or anywhere else to go out to dinner with my wife or husband. Try and bring those businesses here, or go to a movie. Recreation, you know, restaurants, we want to attract that. It does take a balance, and again, we're going through and looking at our zoning and our ordinances on zoning. There's currently a firm that's been hired to modify those. Once that's done, the board needs to ratify those. We also have an economic development committee. They've been going to trade shows and doing marketing, and that's part of the way here already. So again, there are solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. I want to check real fast. How are we looking on time? We got a little bit more, for a few more questions from the audience? Okay. Well, let's do this. Right here.
Let me make sure I just be real clear on how I set the foundation. I think it's great that you guys are all about jokingly the fast food market, bringing in Chipotle, bringing in that type of business. But let me just be real honest with you, it doesn't pay the bills, right? I mean, Chipotle is not at minimum wage, is not going to keep a household going with the amount of growth that people are doing. We're doing rezoning from a commercial over to a residential, and you're asking then a Chipotle to feed that family. And most of those type of jobs go to our high schoolers. So my curiosity is, what are your thoughts and your expectations if you happen to get on the board of how you're going to bring in businesses that are actually going to pay the bills? Businesses that are going to bring in professionals. Businesses that I don't have to go to Denver for a job. I can work remotely, which is totally fine, or I actually have a professional company that is within my neighborhood that's not going to pay me $14 an hour, but it's going to pay me what my college degree is giving me. It's going to give me that professionalness, and it brings in then in return that revenue into Monument.
So let me see if I hear your question correctly, but we're kind of looking at how do you attract these more professional businesses into
Yeah,
town.
they'll give you that diversified, right? They'll
Yeah.
give you the janitor, right? So if you want to do the low wage,
Right.
but it's not all about the fast food. It's not all about the Walmart. That's going to pay you the bare minimum. But what are you going to do to bring in somebody who's going to pay you $50, $75 an hour?
So bringing in something other than just retail.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and Mitch, you are the first up to the bat here, but I mean, what are your ideas on how you would attract businesses beyond just the retails and fast foods?
Right. Well, I don't know if we've got the zoning for it. I've not looked that deep into how much commercial space we have to attract a business. Like, I know we've got Johnson & Johnson and the name that's buying them, that bought that side out is escaping me. But those kind of businesses attract more of an educated crowd, the ones that are making the medical devices. The Economic Development Committee, as well as the Chamber, I think it should be responsible for helping do that. I would work with them and come up with ideas, but I don't know off the top. I've never tried to attract a business that pays $50 to $75 an hour. I mean, I work from home because I told my boss I'm not doing the Gap till it's done, because my office is in Denver. But, you know, I would love to see some of those kind of businesses like who I work for come down to tap into the educated community that we have. So I know that we've got a highly educated community. I know what our mean income is based off last census numbers from a couple of years ago, and there should be jobs here like that. How we get there, I have to work with the experts, because I personally don't know.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks so much. Jim, your thoughts on how do we attract, you know, more of the professional businesses to town and not so much just the
Well, we certainly don't have the land space to do like, mega 100,000 square foot warehouses. I mean, we just don't have that. So, in talking to other politicians in Colorado Springs, I mean, I know they're frustrated with their own commercial and would love to get A space. Interquest Gap is gonna be amazing because it's beautiful, okay? You wanna compete with that, you need to build an A+ commercial building, if you want that here. That's gonna attract people, they're gonna come in and do high-touch, high-class professional services. And if that's what you want, we can do that and strive for that, but that's what it's gonna look like.
I would be interested, I mean, I know corporations like that, I'm thinking specifically the Demotech, sir, because they're right in that, the population there, the people they're hiring are right in that area, So obviously, I'd be really interested in knowing what their criteria is, what they're looking for, making sure that we do have that, and then, have a little bit of background in marketing, but just advocating to them, like, we have resources here, what would it take to bring it up? But at this point, I don't know what that would look like, but I would be very much interested in, like I said, I would very much like to work around this area too, so yeah.
And any ideas on how we would try to get those professional services here, not just on the retail side?
Right. On a different race, I considered what could we do to help Monument. I think cyber is one of the fastest growing industries, low impact on the environment, high paying jobs. We have good students at feeder school, engineering schools locally in Colorado, where a lot of kids that live here go off to, and it would be nice to have them be able to come home and find a job. Some of the jobs we joked about, fast food. I also know, some of the high school kids have nothing to go to. So I'd like to be able to provide a mix. Professional, most certainly. What's been kicked around as well is another medical center. We don't have one close by. I just got to experience that with a family member who needed to go to the ER, and we drove down Powers and had to go to Memorial North. So I understand the need. I think medical would be good. I think cyber or technology would be great. Again, low impact to the community, high paying jobs, all the things that support that, the dry cleaners for the professionals, the restaurants that would be supported by people going out to lunch, entertainment for those people as well. So just a mix to be able to attract those high paying jobs, and also the Chick-fil-A. Because there's a guy over in Tri-View that's very hot for that Chick-fil-A. Thank you for your question.
A good question, and I've thought about that over the last couple of months. How do you bring people? I've seen an improvement, like we've got medical offices that have opened up. We have physicians up here. Women can get a mammogram without driving to St. Francis. Those are wonderful, wonderful things. And I think Mitch brought up something also, and with the cyber technology, brick and mortar buildings are not necessarily being put up for our jobs anymore. So how do you get that here? That's a very unique challenge, I would think. And then Jim mentioned, we don't have a lot of space. We don't have that much property. So that's an issue. If we build something giant, it takes up a lot of space. So yeah, I've thought about that because we're having these houses go in. They're not cheap. And people want to live here and work here. We need those kinds of jobs here too. So how would we do that? It's a good question. And I think that the board can come together and talk about that, and we can work together to see what businesses we can bring here that go more toward the professional. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a pretty good discussion here about economic development ideas, but we've got a few more hands that have gone up right here in the red.
I understand that many of you have made comments about you're interested in what we feel, and you're interested in hearing about us being represented through you. But I'm interested to hear your opinion on what your take is around affordable housing. The cost of living here is increasing. We're talking about people struggling to kind of make ends meet. and having a good mix of the fast food chains and having a good mix of businesses and residential and housing. And so I'm interested in your opinion on affordable housing.
Jim, you're gonna be up first on this one, so tell us your thoughts about affordable housing.
Well, we've already approved a new apartment building going in by the Fairfield Inn, so that's gonna be happening already. And then over by, on the west side of the freeway, that huge development there is gonna include the larger lots, the smaller lots, and some townhomes. So we're trying to phase that right now. I think as long as we do it in that way where it's not lopsided, we're good. And we just gotta get input from the community on where we want this and how we want this and how we want to grow. But again, it all comes back to the space problem too, as to how much and how much we have to do that. But I think that's gonna ease a lot of that burden. I mean, you know, you look at that new apartment complex will be a good competition for the vistas. It keeps things balanced, and you want that competition there to keep things affordable. And we do need that. We just need it done in a way that fits our community aesthetics. I think that's important.
Thank you, Jim. Amy, your thoughts on affordable housing?
I agree with you, but I mean, when my husband and I moved here out of state a couple of years ago, and coming here, we found affordable housing is important. I mean, just scoping out the area, we didn't know where we wanted to be, being able to look at this area. But I do think it's important to be able to provide that option to those, like you said, the houses are getting very expensive. But to be able to have those options for, you know, for people who can't necessarily afford the bigger, better, aesthetically, as he said, too, and as the community sees where those should be, I think that'd be a good thing.
And your thoughts about affordable housing?
I think with providing good jobs for people so that they can afford housing is a good step. We have put in, or the town allowed a lot of new apartment complexes. I know the west side has some more affordable housing than perhaps some of the east side. Some of the new developments are integrated with duplex, I think fourplexes, as well as single-family homes. So there is an effort to make sure that those are included. The one thing that I find alarming are some of the duplexes in Home Place Ranch. I think the low end is $450, and that's not affordable. And that's a duplex. So there's things that we need to do to look and see what we can do with the developers to make sure that it's affordable. I know I moved here because it was more affordable. I work in the Denver area, but we weren't able to afford it, and I think a lot of people are faced with that. I think we have a great hometown feel. We want to keep that, and part of that is being integrating affordable housing into the community.
Allison, your thoughts about affordable housing?
This is a issue dear to my heart, I have to say, because my mother is 74 and she lives in a 2-bedroom apartment at the Vistas for $1,500 a month. It hurts. She can go next door to the elderly center. Well, I can't remember the names escaping me. It's like where you can live, but it's over $3,000 a month. I wish my mom had some more choices. So yes, I want to see some affordable housing, especially in the way of even in apartments or something that can compete with the vistas, where other people say, you know what, I like that place better, I'm just going to go there. So I'd like to see that competition. I think that's healthy. I think that's good. And that's what I'd like to see in this town too. I thought about that as well.
Also, Mitch?
Well, I don't have an opinion so much on affordable housing other than if someone wants to come in and develop property and charge rent or sell their properties, the homes, whatever, I don't really think we have it's not our job to tell them what to charge. It's a free market kind of thing. If apartments want to come in and it's going to be, they're going to base it on the average rent price. So we can't force them to go lower. So if they want to, I'm there to support it. If they want to put multi-dwelling units up and they meet the requirements for the town's land use codes, development codes, and it's aesthetically pleasing, I have no problem with them moving in. But I don't think it's our role. I know this doesn't sound very popular, but it's not our role as trustees to tell the free market what it should be.
I think I saw a hand up in the back, yes, and Luke?
First of all, thank you all for being willing to run for Board of Trustees. So, if as a trustee you were allowed to focus your energy on one topic, what would that one topic be and why?
Jim, I think we start with you last, so we're gonna start with Jay this time.
I would say off the top of my head right now, just budget accountability, making sure, as we've addressed, sales income taxes obviously bring in revenue, but as the town grows and such, making sure that we're allocating it appropriately to make sure we have safety for one, when we're keeping up with the infrastructure, just keeping the town, as it's growing, making sure we're doing it accountably, the funds are allocated to each appropriate, where it needs to be going, and making sure the town's in a good spot financially to keep up with the growth. I think budget accountability would probably be the first one.
And your big priority.
If it could only be one thing, it's water. If you don't have water, you don't have a town. If you don't have a town, you don't need a police force. You don't need a budget. So right now, we need to figure out our problems with water and find solutions. Once we do that, the plan that I've seen, I think will work. We'll have money for other things, including the police force, infrastructure, and hopefully we get to the fun part, like parks and rec. That's my goal, to make sure that this town has water, because without water, you don't have a town. So that's where I would focus, and with that come other things, infrastructure, safety. We'll bring in new businesses because it'll be a great place to live.
One thing important to me is, I agree with Ann about the water, but the fiscal responsibility and budget transparency is a really big thing for me. The word trust is going to be in our title. 2 of us won't make it. I think we look pretty good up there. So whichever doesn't, whoever makes it, the word trust is in your title. I'm spending your money. I want you to trust me. That's really important to me.
So the one thing, I think it's important that we have solid infrastructure. There's a lot of areas that come under infrastructure, so roads, bridges, water. I would like to see that the plans that Tom has laid out for the town, as well as some other things that are, I'm privy to that are coming about as far as what the town is doing. I think it's important that infrastructure is taken care of, and then followed by public safety and some other things.
Thank you, Mitch. Jim, you gotta pick one big issue, which is your big priority.
It's my turn again?
Yeah, it's your turn.
All right, I think if we had a full, competent, functioning, running staff and board that that works well with them, that isn't laissez-faire, no micromanaging, we'll be able to handle the infrastructure, the water, and everything else that goes along with it.
All right. Did I see another hand that went up in the back? Yes, your question, sir?
As with others, and I think everybody here, thank you all for being willing to run for office. It's not an easy job, but let me tell you, I happen to know. And I wish you all good luck when it comes.
Thank you, John.
I mean that sincerely, okay? All of you live on the east side, and a lot of the discussion has been, of course, about the town of Monument, and then reflecting on things that are public works, that's this side of the freeway, and things like that. I live on Mitchell Freeway over here, and there's a lot goes on, as you know, with J-Bill, which is the name of the company, which has 1,000 employees. They're not the highest paid people, but because they have 1,000, they are a huge tax entity. And my question is, well, and I did notice that you're all using bottled water on this side of the freeway. If you are elected, would you be able to vote or act independently of the other board members if you believe something other than them?
Question of conscience. All right, Ann, I believe it's your turn to answer first, so your response.
You know me, John. I speak my mind. I try to have an informed opinion. I don't just shoot from the hip or from emotion. I've been advocating for water for a while. I live in Triview. We're good. Jim McGrady does a great job. I've been worried about people on the west side of the highway for a while. You see Strawberry Lane blowing up on a regular basis. It puts our employees up to their knees in their waist in freezing mud in the middle of winter. That's not good, just not good. We're a town. It's not east side, west side, it's the town of Monument. I think Jim does a great job, and I'm glad to see town and Triview are working together, because we're not separate, we're one town. He has some good ideas. I think we can use those to make sure that the east side residents are served and served well. I will do what's best for the town. It's at-large position. I don't represent Jackson Creek. I would represent the town of Monument. So anybody's town issues are my issues. And again, we've had some controversial things come before the board. I do my homework. I try to make sure it's the best decision for the town, whether that's fiscally, well-being, whatever the case may be. And that's what I would do. So there's no east side, west side, we're one Monument.
Answering your question, yes, I would be able to vote independently. I'm not going to be a yes gal all the time. Residents first, trustees second, town staff, I'm sorry. You know, if I want to work with everybody, but that's just the pecking order that I'm seeing here. Am I able to say, no, I don't think that's a good idea when everybody else says yes? Yeah, I am.
Awesome, thanks, Mitch.
I'll just keep this simple, John. I'm beholden to nobody on the board, not the town, only the residents. So I will vote what's best for the residents.
Excuse me, Jim. Thank you, Mitch.
Absolutely, yes, and I think you know that because we've had that conversation, but the biggest issue that you guys have on your side is, as Anna mentioned, the water, okay? And I have to tell you that Tom Tharnish is probably one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met, and it angers me that a lot of people on staff like him get the grief they do. The man has great ideas, and we already have planned regional solutions that will take time, 5 well sites that are available, building a new tank, which absolutely has to happen, because that other one's got to get repaired, period. End of conversation. All we have to do is wait for April for a Supreme Court decision that we're waiting on to find out where we're going to put it. It's already in budget to do the design for it, and it'll be in budget in early 21 to build it. And then we'll fix the old one, so that you guys are all squared away over there. I would not want to live under that kind of worry if I was on that side. So, and then the treatment plant on Synthes and Mitchell as well, so that everything's squared away as far as the town. I'm in Woodmore Water District, so I'm also, like she said, with Triview, but these things all need to happen. I'm in contact with him all the time, and if you ever go to his office, which I'd recommend, he's got his board with his list of things to attack, and all he says is, you guys need to talk to the board, get this stuff done, but I'm for it.
Thank you, Jim.
To answer your question, yes, most definitely. I like to, I stick by my convictions and what I think is right. That being said, though, too, I want to make sure I am hearing the other board members. If I am in error, I want to be able to listen to their message and not just hold that position from a stance of stubbornness. But most definitely, I can stick by my position on that.
Okay. Let me check with Terry and see how we're looking on time. Do we still have time for a few more questions from our audience? Okay. Did I see another hand toward the back? Yes, in the green.
Yeah, so I have a question, kind of going back to what I believe Mitch said earlier on, I love Monument because of the small town feel and because of the land and stuff out here, but I also see the need for commercial development. I'm of the mindset in real estate, I think that if you build more houses, then the commercial will come. But kind of going back to, you said earlier, like 105, it kind of needs a facelift, and a lot of the businesses look deteriorated. That's something that I notice all the time that kind of bugs me, and I always think, oh, when you go to the board, but what do you think that you can do as a board to make those changes and help the town and get that facelift?
Allison, I think we're back around to you to be the first to answer again. So what can the board do to kind of affect the changes that you've been talking about?
Hopefully we won't fight too much. How do I say this the right way? I think a lot of times what happens is people take things personally. It's what I have seen in some of the meetings that we've had. It's not a personal attack if I say no. I don't want anyone to conceive it that way. I'm not attacking you personally. We're trying to do what's best for the town. And I think what I've seen with some previous meetings is it gets personal. And I don't think it needs to be that way. So hopefully we can work together, right? There's 5 qualified people sitting right in front of you. So I want to work with board members to achieve what we're trying to accomplish without people being offended or upset or having hurt feelings. I hope that somehow I can help bring that cool head, like I was talking about earlier, to a meeting. And I know, like I said, we get passionate. We may not like that. It's just the way we are as humans. So I can help that way.
Mitch?
So you were asking how we accomplish getting
Kind of
the,
getting the facelift
Right.
up and fixing some of those eyesores.
so I don't know all the ways, I mean, I've sat through dozens and dozens and watched the videos of how the board works, but I think it would be important for the town to reach out to the business owners and come up with part of our master plan of beautification project, which those business owners would be subject to being a part of. They don't have a choice. They get a grace period of how many years it's going to take to make changes. And you see business owners do this all the time. Although the Safeway area, that whole area, that's a poor example of the owner of that property doesn't seem to care too much about what his property looks like. I would like to see the town create some ordinances to force business owners, and I really don't like doing this, but I'd rather see the town look better and have angry business owners. They'll get over it.
Yes.
So that's what I would do. I would do ordinances to force them to come up with a master plan on beautification.
I concur with what he's saying, but we would need to sit down as a board with the staff and invite the business owners in the community and figure that out. So it's not so legislatively forceful. That's kind of the way I can say that right now.
So some public meetings or something like
I think
that?
so.
Yeah.
And maybe involve the economic development committee that we've hired as well as to how to do that. And hopefully, as we grow commercially along the freeway, which would be most ideal, as close to it as possible on both sides, competition would lend to wanting people to do that to compete for more business as well.
Jimmy, your thoughts on what the board can do?
Yeah, I'm not directly familiar with it, but my first thought would have been like what Mitch said, but go to these businesses and approach them on the matter. And then see if you can work together to accomplish that. If not, obviously, then by force, but, yeah, I'd have to be on the board and see what the standard is to pursue that. So, yeah.
And your thoughts?
Yeah, I would stop short on forcing people, because if you're a business owner and someone says you have to paint your storefront pink and maybe you like blue better, I don't want to be in that, I don't want to live in that place. So I understand though beautification and wanting to improve and make it feel more welcome. Again, I would try and engage with those business owners. We have, believe it or not, a couple of issues over on the other side of the road too, but engaging with those business owners, trying to, get on the same page. What's good, like you said, a nice storefront or a nice, welcoming parking area that isn't all broken up and give you your car misalignment or whatever. Just work with those folks to try and improve their business areas. I'm against forcing people. It should be mutually beneficial. I think with some dialogue, we could get a lot done without forcing business owners to do certain things. But yeah, I agree, we could probably do a few things. Also, economic development zones might be a way to incentivize businesses to invest, either turn over businesses that are empty or invest in their business to improve. And again, once you start bringing that traffic in, those homes, I think there will be the revenue for those businesses to also invest so they keep customers coming.
But the potholes keep all the alignment shots.
Stay here.
That's why we have all those auto parts stores, right? Does that same guy own the auto parts store? There you go.
I saw a hand back here in the gray.
Yeah, what can be done to get more parking along Second Street?
And I think, Mitch, we are beginning with you this time around and then making our way through, so go ahead.
I honestly don't know the answer to that. You're talking about from Second and 105 where it meets all
Well,
the
along
way?
Second where the restaurants are, the businesses are, when the Mexican restaurant is full, the parking can go all the way down Second Street.
Oh, sure, I've been stuck in it.
There's just not enough parking.
Well, the guy who owns Casa Fiesta, he's selling a piece of land right now next to it. So, someone could get the bright idea to buy it and create a parking lot for
A structure, even better.
But I don't know, what the town could do. We can't just create parking spots out of thin air, right? I mean, there are spots all along Second, I know, and then to the left or Lindbergh Park, there's parking spots and there's people parking to the right. Once those fill up, there's no place to go. I've been there. I would have to talk to the town, the planning group there, to find out what could be done. I don't know that there could be anything done to create new parking along Second.
I agree, it would be a staff question, a zoning, an ordinance question, but, in front of Coffee Cup there, they have angled spots, which is better than parallel parking. If there's no room on the street, you can't do that. But more angled spots that you could do where there's room would be the better, but there has to be room.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what they're saying. Again, I would have to, I'm not familiar with what you would do, but I would be a board question, and you would seek out the appropriate people to ask for that. But there's no room, yeah.
Well, if we were Colorado Springs, we would put in bike lanes. Good thing we're not Colorado Springs, but bikes. To me, we do have that new parking lot, Lindbaugh Park. I would think it would be, instead of insider trading, hopefully that's the public knowledge but with that lot, but that would create an opportunity, those pedicabs. So yeah, maybe a couple of bike riders, enthusiasts that have the leg power, or some young people that have the leg power could pedal you to the Mexican restaurant or the shops. So we might be able to put in maybe a little bike lane for them. I mean, it was kind of a joke, but not a joke, so that you can park down at Lindbaugh Park. There's plenty of parking every time I go by there, unless there's some, huge event, and be able to take you up the street. So to me, it's an opportunity for someone to start a business, someone that's an entrepreneur and wants to, and has that leg power. I personally don't, but I think that would be a great opportunity. Maybe it would be something unique about Monument.
There's a for sale sign.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I thought, insider.
Thoughts? How do we get more parking on Second Street?
Well, I mean, I think that's an option, what Mitch said, just, there's an opportunity. Parking's a problem down there. It's a problem everywhere. I have trouble turning left off some of those streets because there's so many cars parked there on the main street. I can't see the traffic. If it's not overgrown by a shrub, I can, you know, there's cars in the way. So, yeah, it's an issue, and I think if we have an opportunity, I don't know why we can't pursue that.
I want to throw this in just as a follow-up, and we can start this way with Jim and work our way through, but what about the idea of having the town build a parking garage? Is that a good use of the people's money to do something like that, Joe?
Did the people want a parking garage in town?
No.
There you go.
Are we gonna get the same answer? We'll move on, all right.
Just one quick one. There is 100 feet from you, but don't forget, there is a parking lot right back over here. You
35
may not know it, but
spaces.
it's 100 feet
Not
right
a
from
garage.
here.
So maybe it's a question of signage then, right? Maybe could the sign?
Yeah, it's poorly
Somebody
signed.
else, the tourism board, point some signs to, hey, this is where you can park and enjoy our.
But people
commercial
want to park
district.
right there in front and walk in the door. There is one here, but it's not huge for the police department used to be.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
I've lived in the area here for about 13 years. We first lived in Jackson Creek, now we live over in the Monument Villas, which is the oncoming mill. For several years, it took me probably 8 years at least, maybe 10, to figure out the governmental relationships. Who's responsible for what? I think it's very confusing to most people, and a lot of people then get upset with the wrong governing body. When it comes to Tri-View, you know, when they were building when they were improving Jackson Creek and they stopped at Higby, people were upset, why isn't the town continuing and doing the whole thing, not realizing that there were two different governing bodies that had to do with that. And some people don't live in Monument at all, even though their neighbor does. How can we do a better job of communicating to people who they should go to when they have a concern, a complaint, whatever, about things not being handled right, whether it's water, whether it's the roads, whether it's whatever.
You bring up a good point, because I think there are a lot of different special districts and who's responsible for what. So I think we're going to start here. Is there, Jimmy, an answer for how do we help the people in the community understand who to go to with a problem?
Yeah, I think what's important, and talking to the mayor, I've found this out that they've actually been, bettering their communications with the different departments and making sure, I think that's the first step, making sure that they're all talking to each other. And then from there, being clear, are we now communicating with the public? Do they know how to reach us? What that would look like as far as letting you guys, maybe that would be a poll, something we would send out to you guys, how would this information best be released to you? But right off the top of my head, I think that's something that you have to put in front of the public first to see how they want to find that out first. But first, but in order to do that, again, all the governing, the board and everyone across the government has to be talking to each other. And it sounds like that's an improvement. I think that's something that just needs to be improved upon, and then going from there.
And your thoughts on how do we get just the general public to know who to go to?
It is confusing. I live in Tri-View. One of the reasons why I started getting involved in the city government or town government is my water went off when those mains broke over in Tri-View. Got up to go to work, turned on the shower, and nothing came out. So I started investigating what that was, and I thought, oh, go to the town monument. Nope, Tri-View, And then the lights over at Tri-View. We've got street lights that have been out since I moved in. Well, it's Tri-View and Mountain View Electric as well. So there's so many entities. Pikes Peak Regional Transportation District up Baptist Road. I ran for county commissioner, failed run, but I made sure to educate myself to know what those different entities are. There are special districts that only govern certain things. Tri-View is not in charge of police force. That's the town of Monument. So there's lots of overlapping entities, things that you need to know. If you need to talk about Baptist Road, who do you talk to? And like you said, your neighbor might be in one district and, you know, across the street is something else. I have that knowledge. I've done a lot of investigation, water, roads, just boundaries, taxing entities, all those sorts of things. So I have that knowledge. I think we need to get it on our website so that you guys understand. If I live over here and I need to talk to somebody about water, who do I call? And we need to start not being separate entities. Triview has their site, Town of Monument has their site. We need to integrate those for one town. You know, Village Center is their own special metropolitan district. Again, we need to get those integrated so that you know who to go to when you have an issue. So hopefully you'll elect me. I'll make sure that that's a priority.
Allison next to get her thoughts on this.
Okay, say the question again.
So,
It's okay, I'm listening and.
no, but if somebody has a problem, there are so many different special districts, it can be confusing on who to go to. So
Right.
what could you do as a trustee to kind of improve, you know, give people a better way to find a person to go to?
Right, because I didn't know for several years that we had a board of trustees. So who do you go to? I mean, I get that. It's very, Ann mentioned, it is extremely confusing, and even sometimes now, I get confused with it. So how do we let people know where to go to? Again, I think having somewhere on the town website that says if you're having trouble with this, check here. Trouble with this, check here. Just to make it easy and streamlined, and you can get your answer instead of trying to guess, because that is it's just a really confusing system around here as we have, you know, municipalities, so.
Like a tool on a website to make it
Yeah.
easier. Okay. Mitch, your thoughts?
This is not going to be popular,
Careful, Mitch.
but I would get rid of all these special districts. Never heard of them before until I moved here. I came from Arizona, where the town or the city is responsible for all infrastructure, water, sewer, that kind of stuff, right? Garbage. They all gets billed centrally. And you have one throat to choke. Being that that's not going to happen anytime soon here, because there's a bunch of mills that I have to pay off in the next 30 years,
Or so.
thanks to Jim. Well, he and I live in the same metro district, and he helped create it. So I'm glad he did, because the snow got removed. So that's
Our streets get maintained,
Yep.
lights are on, there's a lot of it there, you know?
There is,
Just
there is.
saying.
But I think it wouldn't be a bad idea if the town and the various districts got together and first created a welcome kit for people who move in. So as soon as they move in and they're turned on in their home, whether it's a pre-existing home or a brand new development, they get a kit. And the kit tells them everything they need to know, not just about where they live, but the surrounding community also. That same kind of kit can be published on everybody's website. I think it'd be a great idea to have a singular website for Tri-Lakes, right, the whole region. But if not, websites are easily duplicated. So you can take those same pages with all the information, put it on the town site, Triview, Woodmore. Everybody can have a web page that tells you where the boundaries are. And that being said, the town's maps they need to be modernized. They're not functional from the ability to zoom in like on a Google map or a Bing map or something. So those need to be updated, and I would, like me, and I'm an IT guy, I'm going to help get those things taken care of.
Jim, your thoughts? How do we help people understand who to go to with the problem?
Well, definitely on the website, the way I would envision it, and I'm definitely open to having our staff work on this like almost immediately, it sounds great, is you just have a geographical map of the whole area, and then you like touch on water, the whole thing lights up and breaks down the boundary of this here, this district here, this district here, this district. Here is the town proper, as to whether you're gonna be even able to vote locally. You know, right? You're in Woodmore, here's this, here's that, this is your water district. Just touch it and the whole thing lights up. And that's the way I would see it being done. I'm not a web guy, that's the little bit of artist I have in me, which isn't much. Our HOAs were really good. If you're not in one, that's fine, but our HOA was really good at our HOA meetings when people asked us, trying to educate them as to a lot of this. But we definitely need to have something on the website that would just, you touch it, it lights and shows you who you should call, what you should do, and where you should do.
Did I ask you about this one? Yes, we started with Jim. Okay.
But can I ask a follow-up question, and that is, how good is the communication currently between these different entities? And does that need to be worked on too? Does that need to be improved so that Woodmore, those, you know, so there's coordination?
Yeah, okay. Well, I think we started with Jamie, so let's start with Ann, and then we'll work our way through. But what's your experience been with the communication between the different special districts?
Some of the communication has not been good. There has been an animosity between groups. There has been, you know, my turf, your turf kind of thing. Some of it is a local level, some of it is a county level. Again, it's just like anything else. You get a room full of people, some get along, some don't. Also, some of these entities are not towns. There is no person to go to necessarily to negotiate, to communicate. So that makes it a little more difficult. You know, Monument is a town. Woodmore is an area. Forest Lakes is an area. Black Forest is an area. They don't have a town necessarily. Palmer Lake does. So that makes it a little bit easier. But there are entities within those towns that are quasi-governmental. So that's a start. But it's difficult because there aren't elected officials to necessarily go to. So you have to be creative. You have to make sure that you're inclusive. You have to make sure that you can have a multi-communication system. Not everybody likes going on the computer. We have several publications that print locally and are distributed locally. There's multiple methods and ways to do it. But yeah, we do need to start having a conversation. Jim McGrady's been great taking the lead on water. So he's been trying to get that regional conversation going. I think we can leverage off of some of those relationships that have been created and start communicating better. It's a jumping off point, and that's going to be a multi-year project. So we have time to make those relationships.
So it's going to become more important as the area grows.
Yes.
Some of those communities are growing and they don't have any.
I want to make sure that everybody on the panel has a chance to answer those. So Allison, your thoughts about, you know, just interagency communication. What's your experience with it been like, and what do you think could be done?
So I have to be honest, I have no experience with communicating with these entities. So that's something that I would have to collaborate with the other board members so that I can learn about that. So that's my honest answer.
Yeah, I've had little experience. I've met with Triview out of necessity to understand about the water issues in the area. And I'm meeting next week with the fire district to understand what they do. Other than that, I've not had to meet with or communicate with. But what Ann said, I mean, you know, we have to collaborate at all levels to get everybody communicating.
I'm gonna go, just go someplace else.
Everyone's got to cooperate.
Why don't you sit
I think we're willing. You know, we do have a good relationship with Triview. I know that Village Center would be open to talking. I don't know about them more, but everyone does have to cooperate, and that's, yeah.
Yeah, according to my understanding, I think the relationships, from what I've gathered so far, relationships have been better than what they were previously. So coming on board, I think that would your priority to make sure that you're communicating with them all and being so they can reach out to trust.
I want to ask a follow-up. I mean, since we've been talking about kind of this fractured, you know, a lot of different little special districts and everything, would it be something that you would support as a board member to try and champion, maybe having a vote to regionalize things? Maybe just start with the water system and say, let's all get on one similar utility. I'm forgetting where I had started last. Did I start with Dan last? Allison's question?
Okay.
I always give you the hard one, Allison. But I mean, would that be something that you as a trustee would be able to champion?
Say that again.
You know, to go around to all the voters and say, hey, let's make one municipal utility district to try and eliminate some of the Byzantine splitting up the different districts, pardon me.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I would like to see just one entity. I think it wouldn't take a lot for the west side of Monument to tap into Triview water. I don't want it to be complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Mitch, your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm all for simplifying the the government structures that pop up. I think it would take a lot to do that because of the debt that is associated with each one of these special metro districts. And we would probably need people who have a really good idea about finances and debt ratios and things like that. I don't know that the town has the staff. I don't know that everybody who's on the board has the knowledge. You definitely would need experts on how to incorporate that. But I'm also not opposed to looking at it. I mean, that would be great if the debt actually gets paid. I'm sure everybody who owns a property that's in a district that's paying a mill would love to see them actually get reduced. And I think Triview just recently, for the first time, had a reduction, which I'm sure the homeowners there are very happy about. And the development I'm in, I have no idea when I'm going to see a reduction because it's new. But it would be cool if there was a way to do that.
Okay. It sounds like the kind of thing that might require, a vote to be able to do that. But Jim, your thoughts? I mean, is that a possibility to regionalize?
From what I understand, we couldn't vote or force that, and that I don't want to give you a politically correct answer here.
No, that's okay.
That is well beyond anything that we have the authority on. Metro districts are state law run. We would need state cooperation in a lot of this, from what I understand. And you're not going to bring these water utilities together unless they want to. We can't force that. So I'm not going to give you some dreamy answer that that's going to happen anytime soon.
So it sounds like you're saying it's not a realistic solution.
It really isn't.
Okay. Jamie, your thoughts about it?
I mean, simplifying is always a good idea, that sounds nice, but again, as you delve into that, you have to do research and see what exactly that impacts. It's not something you can just put out there, I think. Yeah, you definitely have to do your research and looking into it, make sure it's conducive.
Yeah.
But the idea of it sounds nice.
Okay. And your thoughts about it?
I know, I did the research, again, the metro districts are very hard to dissolve. It takes a majority vote, and it can't be forced from the outside. It has to be done from the inside. So Triview would have to decide, Village Center would have to decide. What I would like to do is make sure the town of Monument is really attractive, and make that be a decision that hopefully maybe someday we can make. Both districts are carrying having heavy debt burden right now, so it wouldn't be good for anybody. You kind of bought into that when you bought property. I don't know what Village Centers is, but it's like really high. Triview's like 35 mils. So there's a reason, and we pay for it, the privilege of living in those areas, and we pay for it. Again, fiscally, we'd have to look at, see if we could do that someday. But the water system, I think that's in our future. Electricity, I think it's almost okay to have some competition, because that way it drives down rates. Nobody's got a monopoly. I don't want to create any monopolies. But we are one town. We need to start working that way. The relationships that were there previously were not conducive to working together. Now they are. So I think we can leverage off of this, and like I said, that water project's a great way because it's a regional idea. We've got all those players, whomever they may be, to the table. Jim or Grady's got it. I think it's a great place to leverage.
I'll check with Terry and see how we're doing on time, because we are getting close to 8 o'clock. Should we move on to closings, or do you have time for 1 or 2 more questions?
It's up to them. I mean, I'm here as long as you guys are here. One more.
I saw one more hand in the back. Yes, ma'am.
The board has had a problem lately with zoning and developments. Developers are saying, well, these certain requirements aren't in the zoning, so we don't have to follow it. So for example, there was one where there were tons of cul-de-sacs. It didn't seem really safe for the people to move in. There's nothing they could do about it because of the zoning. There's industrial zoning here in commercial land that maybe people don't want to be next to some kind of factory. So what is the one thing that you would want to change with zoning? And please don't say that you have to research it, because this is something that people are going to be using to create their vote for you. So I need to know what that one thing is based on your knowledge.
All right. And I believe, Mitch, we're starting with you this time around. So what could you change with the zoning, Mitch?
Well, the land use code workshops are going on right now. So immediately, I don't have a solution. I think it's important that the town, the residents, take part in these workshops. It's going to take the next 12 months for them to be completed and the report being done. The people who don't want to be near industrial areas, I think it's important that they come forward and tell us they don't want to be near industrial areas. If they don't participate, then it's going to be left to those who do, and it's going to be left to the planning commission as well as the planning department on how those zones are set up. So I think it's not just what we would do. I think it's the town's response, the residents of the town, to participate. They've been given the opportunity to, and they've already had one workshop, and there's 3 more left. So and the town is letting people know to participate. So I think it's important that they do.
Jim, your thoughts about making changes with respect to zoning ordinance?
Well, as well as, participation in the planning commission and the planning boards. But we are already doing, and what our town manager started is reviewing every ordinance and updating it and reviewing every area of that. And I want to continue to do that and make everything as up to date as possible. We have redundancies, things that are way beyond old, and we're going to continue pressing on with that. It's absolutely necessary.
Okay. What would you change?
Off the top of my head, what I want to do is hear from the people, the biggest thing. Because I can't just make this decision for me and be like, but it's ultimately the majority of what the people say and how they vote and what their voices are saying. So I think that's something I'll put back on you and be like, well, what do you deem as, what's the most important thing what would you want me to advocate for? Because right off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you one way or the other, to be honest.
And what would you change about the ordinance?
I think you're talking about Home Place Ranch. I show up to those meetings, I look over those plans. Some of those are 114 pages of documentation to look through before the board meetings. As fun as it is, I read through those. I was concerned, and I think a lot of residents were, about egress if there's an emergency, like a Black Forest fire. I don't think we have to remind too many people in this room what that looks like. Heck, we're having trouble with toilet paper right now. I don't want to see what that looks like. All those cul-de-sacs gave me chills. The fact that it was also targeted towards 55 and older, certain sections of that, as a older resident community, it gave me chills. I talked to Jamie Baumgartner about it from Tri-Lakes Fire to make sure that the egress was there. We have to balance those. Sometimes the land just might not be suitable for development. And to me, the way certain things were laid out, maybe that's why it sat there for 20 years and went through a couple different developers' hands, because it wasn't developable. They weren't able to develop it and make a profit on it the way the land was suited. One of the planning commission even suggested that we blow through somebody's home to be able to put a road through. I didn't buy my house hoping that, either side became a roadway. So, we have to be sensitive. And sometimes we might have to say no. I'm self-funding. I am not taking anybody's money, not a developer, nobody's money. I'm not going to be held accountable, but the residents of the town. So hopefully you can consider that when you vote.
Allison.
Zoning, so Home Place Ranch, yeah, that's right behind my house. Big topic about an easement that is right by my house. So zoning is also something that, I'm gonna look to other board members for, because I don't have a lot of experience in that. That's my honest answer. I wanna be honest with you about that. So I think, developments have to have ways to get people in and out of their community without sending them out through another. And I think that was a big topic about where the easement roads, we don't have an emergency way to get out, but I'm not sure that sending everyone out the same way is the best idea. I mean, and then what's an emergency? I need French fries at McDonald's, I gotta go this way. So then it becomes more of a thoroughfare instead of an emergency. So that was sort of it was a big topic to me here these last few months. So, and like Ann said, some of the land might not be able to be lived on. I don't know. Now, I do want to work with builders. I want builders to be successful here. We want that kind of growth. But, maybe maybe it just can't happen. I'm not sure. I need to learn from other people too.
Thank you. And I forgot which, did we ask this to Mitch first? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that means we're going to start with Jim again with our closings, and we'll run through everybody. Closing statements, you got a minute.
Okay, I've already been in this game. I've been dealing in town politics for 6 years, working with staff, negotiating agreements, dealing with IGAs. I ran on a spirit of trust, of being able to work things out and have a spirit of cooperation, which I've done. We've gotten the town staffed, and like I say, all I want to do is finish building this car and get the traction going for everybody's best interest. Thank you.
Yeah, this is, like I've already said, this is all new for me. I am excited though to be a voice for the public. I want to be able to work with the Board of Trustees. I want to be a collaborative, and I want to be a team player. And I want to make sure your voice is heard and that I'm advocating for you guys. The biggest thing for me is, I've mentioned this a little bit before, but the budget accountability. I want to make sure that as we grow and everything, that we are making sure our town's going to be prosperous, making sure we're taking care of that. Within that, that'd be the water, the infrastructure, that we can keep everything up to par and make sure this is a stellar town, with our looks and everything. That also includes safety, making sure that we have the adequate police enforcement, and that we are a sufficient, well-established town for people that are going to come in, and it's a appealing place to come and live and to grow. So, yeah.
And we're closing.
I think I bring to the table a unique blend of past experience, both in the political realm and in my professional. I've done accounting, I've done auditing. I'm very good at, I used to joke, doing audits. It's like, it doesn't say bartender here, because people unburden themselves. But it's good that you can build rapport and work with people. So I think I have the unique abilities, and I hope you will give me an opportunity to work for the town, so. Oh, which one are you holding up? She held up stop, I was like, oh no.
My fault, you have 30 more seconds.
I've got 30 more seconds.
I'll give you extra.
Okay, so this threw me for a loop a little bit. So again, I have a professional background that I think would be very beneficial for the town. I have established relationships at the county level, at local levels. I already have those rapport built. I just met with one of the commissioners to talk about this water issue. I'm going to work for you no matter what, either as a resident or as a trustee, but I'm hoping you'll give me an opportunity to work for you as a trustee, so thank you. Now we stop. Thank you.
So I feel very blessed to live in this country, and I love Monument. I love where I live. I want this town to prosper. That's my main goal. I want you to trust me. So I think I can serve well, and I need to hear from you. So if you can do that, I think I'm a good choice. And I would be I'm very humble. When I'm asking for your vote, I do that with the greatest of humility.
All right, so I've been shooting from the hip all night. I've got a prepared closing, so just bear with me. This will sound much better. So first, thank you all for coming out. Appreciate that you were here, made the effort. This has been great because I've had some meet and greets where not too many people showed up. Terry, thank you for hosting. I think that a transparent and hardworking Board of Trustees that's receptive to the input of an involved and informed community is paramount to the town's success. We are going to be facing some challenges, but they're not insurmountable. I think that with careful planning, smart budgeting, and ensuring that experts that are employed by the town are listened to, we can overcome, anything that's thrown in front of us. And with that, if you guys want to talk to me further, I'm going to be available for free pizza at Papa Bear's on the 14th. It's my last meet and greet that I'm holding before the elections, and that's 2 nights before the ballots go out.
Well, how about a round of applause for all of our candidates? lot of our guests said, thank you all, and thank you for this opportunity. So-
I'd like to thank Andy Cohen with KOA 8 News Channel 5 for being here tonight. Thank you so much. And this was Facebook Live, so it's gonna stay up on our website. We're gonna try to put it on YouTube also so that it has other access, so people that have social media, watch it and you can pass it out to other people, give them links. So thank you for coming.
And don't tell me that fits.
I know, I wanted to see it. And thank you very much.
What you have lunch?
The number of people who are here is way more than anybody who's ever come to. They're not going to get resident input. People have their own. I thought a good version might so maybe close to this
Where are you? Good, how you doing, sir? Pretty good.
Hi, how are you? As we're doing this,
Gia.
I've been good.